Hi everyone, my name is Kevin Kang from HDCVT. HDCVT is SDVoE's contribution member, and we are specialized in ODM manufacturing. And today we would like to talk about hybrid theory of SDVoE 10G and 1G together in a single box. So 10G and 1G. So since SDVoE's 10G solution was introduced in 2014, it's been a long debate between 1G solutions and 10G solutions in the industry. So I made a quick chart to compare the pros and cons of each solutions. So first, looking at the 10G side of it, as a standard codec options, we have SDVoE utilizing 10G network. And the advantage of the 10G solution is this is the best AV over IP technology you can get today. And since it's utilizing 10G network, it is a future-proofing infrastructure. Right now, we are talking about 4K 60, but down the road, there will be a 8K or even higher resolution and refresh rate. If you're considering the future your system to be safe in the future, like 3 years from now on or 5 years from now on, you might be better off to start with the 10G solution now. And it also has the ultra low latency. This is the lowest latency you can get at today's market. And some cons would be compared to the 1G solution, it is still more expensive, even though the 10G infrastructure, 10G network switch, and even 10G SDVoE solution price is dropping down, but still compared to the 1G, it is a tad more expensive. And because of it's more expensive, it requires large initial investment in the beginning. That's the 10G side of it. On the 1G side, there are more variety of the standard codec, such as H.264, H.265, and JPEG 2000, and some private codec you see in the show, like Crestron, AMX. Those players, they have their own proprietary codec. And the pros of 1G solution, it is more economical compared to the 10G solutions, and depending on which codec option you use, the price difference could be somewhat significant. And also, advantage of the 1G solution, mathematically, you see the big difference of the compression rate compared to the 10G, but from human eyes, it is still visually lossless video. So it is still good enough quality for the human eyes. But the disadvantage of the 1G solution is it might be good for now, it might be okay for now, but if you think about the future, 8K or higher refresh rate, 1G you have limited bandwidth that you can play with. Unless the compression technology evolve very quickly, there will be a limit that you can get with a higher resolution signals. And the latency compared to the 10G, still 1G has higher latency. That means it's a slow latency. And the picture quality, of course, comparing with the 10G, it is a disadvantage on the 1G solution. So 10G and 1G, they've been fighting, debating each other. But the industry standard, industry's trend has been many manufacturers offering both options, like 1G and 10Gs together, and have the market decide which one to choose from. And looking at the SDVoE members, 70% of the SDVoE members offers both 1G and 10G solutions, not limited to just one solution or the other, by having both solutions available to their customers. So your customer has more options to choose from. And the reason behind offering both 1G and 10G solution is each solution has its unique purpose based on the application and the expectation of the client. Some project, money is not a problem. They're just looking for the best of the best solution. Then 10G might be the good choice for that application. But in some other application, you don't really care too much about 4K video. 1080p is okay, and the budget is the main concern of the project. Then 1G might be the better choice for that kind of application. So as I said, each application has different video quality requirement, and as well as the latency tolerance. So simply, there is no one size fit all the way to approach. So 10G and 1G, that's why they survive, in both in the market. So we are thinking about, what could be the next trend. So we thought about, how about we put 10G and 1G signal, 1G codec in one box. So we call it SDVoE hybrid system. So what is SDVoE hybrid system? So having SDVoE 10G codec and 1G codec in one box, single box. So you don't need to think about which one to go from. So you have both options available in a single box. So advantage of the 10G SDVoE, So available options for the codec side, on the 10G side you have SDVoE, and on the 1G side you have H.264, 265, JPEG 2000, Dante, and some other options. So advantage of the SDVoE, as I mentioned earlier, this is the best AV over IP technology you can get at uncompressed signal. And advantage of the 1G is, since it's utilizing higher compression rate, data rate is much lower than 10G solutions. So it is very useful for a recording purpose and storage purpose. And since it's a 1G signal, you can also decode the 1G signal from the portable devices like iPad, tablet, or even from your smartphone. So you can have advantage of both 10G and 1G solution in a single box. So the concept of the SDVoE hybrid is having SDVoE plus H.264, 265 in a single box, or SDVoE plus JPEG 2000. But for HDCVT, our first step was working on the SDVoE plus H.265 solution. So how does the internal signal processing works on the hybrid system? So you have an input signal coming in from your video sources to our encoder. Then the signals go through the HDMI splitter chipset. So one signal goes to the Blue River NT1000 or NT2000 chipset, and another signal goes to the 1G H.265 compression chipset. And since SDVoE offers 1G network pass-through within the chipset, so we embed a 1G H.265 signal into the Blue River chipset and goes out to the network. So this is the example of the application. So you can have all of your video sources connected to our hybrid transmitter device and send it off to the 10G network. And within the same project, where you need to have best of best picture quality, you use SDVoE receiver to maintain the 10G signal, the high quality uncompressed signal to the display. But in some areas, you don't need 4K 60 uncompressed signal. Then you can get away with a 1G receiver, 1G signal. Then you can use 1G receiver to decode H.264 signal to the monitor. Or if you have a computer, then you can decode the RTSP stream from our encoder device. And also, if you need to send the audio via Dante to the audio network, that is also possible. And lastly, if you have a 1G, the wireless network router, you can decode your video source from your tablet, like iPad or Android devices. So this is our board design. So it supports all the SDVoE features, 4K 60 444, HDCP 2.2, video wall, multi-view, and we have option for both CAT, copper, and fiber, and supports USB for the KVM function, and we have H.265 built into our transmitter. So let me give you an example of how our hybrid system can be used in a real-life application. So I'm using a hospital as an example. The picture you see is the Cedars-Sinai Hospital in LA. It's one of the most prestige hospital in the US. So within the hospital, like operation room, where doctor needs to see the very high quality image of the patient's imaginary, then you use 10G decoder to maintain the best picture quality. And also another area could be the operation theater. Like hospital like Cedars-Sinai, you have many medical students comes to the hospital to look at how doctors do the operation. So before, the student just come into the operation room and just like look around how doctors do the surgery operation. But now with the AV technology, instead of student going into the operation room, they just sit on a room next to it, like a auditorium or like a training area, and have like 4K camera, high definition camera, taking the live video of the doctor's operation, the room, and the signals get sent over to the auditorium where students see, so they can see the live operation of the doctor's operation from the room next to it. So for that kind of purpose, you need to have good quality video. So you can use the 10G decoder for that. But in some area in the hospital, you can just get away with a 1G. For example, it would be like patient waiting area where the picture quality is not like you don't need to have like a 4K signal. Then you can get away with a 1G. And like lobby could be another example. And digital signage throughout the hospital, while break room for the employees, maybe you can use 1G. So that's the example of the application, how it can be used. And now I want to give you another example how hybrid system you can save the budget. So I'm just giving you an example of the Juniper networks, US-based network devices manufacturer, and this is one of the largest AV over IP deployment in AV industry. To give you an example, so they used 1,000 endpoints throughout their campus. They have multiple buildings, and they centralize all the AV signal into the one centralized locations. And they use 400 encoders and 600 decoders. The actual the deployment for this project was based on the 1G, because this project was done in 2014, which SDVoE was just introduced, so they didn't know about the 10G solution. But I'm just giving you an example of how much you can save by utilizing the hybrid system. So our 1G plus 10G hybrid encoder, I just picked a number of the retail price at $2,100, and the 10G decoder price is $2,100. And 1G decoder, our price is 1/3 of the 10G decoder, so I use the $700. So if you use everything from beginning to the end, everything, all the 1,000 endpoint using the 10G only solutions, you just multiply $2,100 plus like 400 encoders, $2,100 multiplied by 600 decoders, the total becomes $2.1 million for the 10G only solutions. And I apply, let's say, half of the decoders, like operation room, you need to maintain 10G, but some areas, like half of them, you can get away with a 1G. So the encoder price stay the same, but decoder, like out of 600, 300 use 10G decoders, and 300 of them you use 1G decoders. So the total price of the same system becomes 1.6 million. So what does that mean to you is you could save $420,000, which is 20% less of the using just 10G solution. So by having this hybrid concept where the budget was somewhat limited, then you can instead of changing all the system into the 1G, you can stay 10G and use some area with the 1G. So maybe this could be the solution for this kind of application. And lastly, before I finish, I would like to just briefly introduce HDCVT, who we are and what we do. So HDCVT is a top AV ODM solution supplier. So if any of you guys are end user or system integrators, we don't sell products directly to you. But if you are interested in our solution, maybe you can come to me after the presentation, then I can introduce you to the right partner that we work with within the SDVoE Alliance. And we are a contribution member of SDVoE since 2016. And we do have 120 R&D engineers, including both hardware and software engineers. And we have about 300 employees. And we serve customers worldwide. And we do have full lineup of AV over IP products, including SDVoE, but we do also have 1G solution under H.265 and JPEG 2000 as well.